Have you ever felt exhausted after spending time with certain people? As if, in addition to a simple handshake, a complete spiritual bath was necessary? It is that strange feeling that the person has left a weight in the air, as if they had carried not only their own problems, but also a kind of dense, sticky energy, difficult to dissipate. And it doesn't stop there. Right after these visits, life seems to go awry. Unexpected expenses appear, the car breaks down, health falters, or fights arise out of nowhere with the dearest people. Carl Gustav Jung already said that we end up finding ourselves repeatedly in the shadows of our soul, and also in the figures we choose to keep close. For a long time, I thought that all this was pure coincidence, until I started to see the patterns. One day, after a visit from a seemingly friendly acquaintance, my car, which had been running smoothly for years, simply stopped. On another occasion, a distant cousin came for coffee, and that same evening, I had such an intense argument with my wife that she even filed for divorce. Luckily, after a lot of dialogue and sincere apologies, we managed to reverse the situation. In an even more striking episode, an acquaintance with the habit of complaining about life spent a few hours at my house. The next day, I woke up with a fever. The diagnosis? Pneumonia. And it didn't stop there. Cases like these have been accumulating as signs that something was out of place. It seemed as if my energy, my life, and my progress were being sucked or interrupted whenever certain individuals crossed my path. About money, then there is no talk. It was as if every financial advance was immediately followed by an innocent visitor, and soon after, debts and difficulties reappeared. Jung called this kind of meaningful coincidence synchronicity, when external events reflect our internal state. That is, when after someone's visit your body gets sick, your relationships break down, or your finances plummet. It's not bad luck, sorcery, or drama. It's your psyche screaming for limits. Some people don't just bring their presence, but an invisible emotional mess. Selfish people drain resources, without even realizing it. Toxic drugs spread chaos. And yes, it can come from people in your own family. The mere fact that they are related does not make their impacts any less harmful. The big question is, do you really want to continue allowing this kind of presence in your home, in your life? I've already made my decision. I do not want, under any circumstances, to open my doors to those who suck my peace, even if they share blood ties with me. There is one type of visitor that we need to keep away from our home. Those who live in the role of victims. They are those who, instead of constructive conversations, prefer to pour out their pain, frustrations, and problems. They don't look for solutions. They just want someone to dive with them into this sea of negativity. Maybe you know someone like that. The dialogue turns into a monologue where the central theme is suffering. If you're an empathetic person, you're likely to come out of these encounters feeling emotionally drained, as if you've lost your vital energy. I have a personal example, my aunt. Whenever he came to visit me, there were at least 3 uninterrupted hours of lamentation. For a while, I tried to advise her, offer ways out and alternatives, until I realized that she didn't want help. She wanted company in pain. According to Jung, this type of behavior is often unconscious. The person manipulates through pity, dragging others into his shadow, that inner space where the deepest fears and traumas live. The scariest thing? You don't even notice it when you start seeing the world with her eyes. And then, soon after these visits, illnesses, fights, or misfortunes arise. Coincidence? Unlikely. Another type that should be kept at a distance is the professional critic. Those who enter your house only to point out defects. That curtain is out of fashion. Haven't bought a car yet? Do you allow your child to go to school alone? These individuals are not there to share joys, but to impose standards. And the worst, after they leave you full of doubts about your own choices. Jung classified them as representatives of the collective unconscious, people who repeat society's norms without question. I remember another visit from my aunt, yes, her again. In a single night, he criticized my profession, the time I got married, the appearance of my wife, the decoration of my house, and even my best friend. There was so much criticism that all I wanted was to disappear for a few days. I spent 3 days questioning all my decisions. Except for marriage, of course, because respect and love do not enter into this equation of judgment of others. How to protect ourselves from these emotional invasions, with some simple and effective techniques. The first of these is psychological mirroring. When someone tells you what you should do, respond with, "Interesting is this view. Why do you think so?" Most of the time, the person is left without an answer. because the speech is not genuine, it is just a repetition of common sense. Another powerful tool is the phrase, "Thank you for your concern, but I'm fine this way." This type of response works as a soft but firm barrier. You do not conflict, but you clearly delimit your space. After all, your home should reflect who you are, not anyone else's ideal. Jung said that denying someone the right to be who they are is one of the greatest injustices. And that's exactly what these critics do when they invade your home with judgments. But you have the right to be authentic, to keep your energy protected, and to make choices that honor your essence. There is a type of visitor who transforms his house into a kind of public room, as if his home were not an intimate space, but an extension of the street. They enter unceremoniously, sit down anyway, rummage through the fridge without asking, and without the slightest idea, lie on the couch still with their street clothes, bringing with them all the dust of the world outside. These people think it's normal to act as if what's yours is automatically theirs. They give guesses in their environment, suggest changes as if they were commenting on their own apartment. Carl Jung called this behavior boundary confusion, an erasure between the self and the other. Unfortunately, this is common in cultures where intimacy is confused with invasion and affection with the obligation to accept everything. I remember a childhood friend who asked for shelter for a few days. In less than a week, his girlfriend was also living in my apartment, without even telling me. They even brought the dog, which left marks on the sofa and dirt on the floor. When I finally tried to talk, hinting that it was time to leave, he took deep offense. He said, "I thought we were friends. Are you really denying help to someone so close?" After that, we never spoke again. And you know what? It was better that way. The truth is that friendships and family ties should not be excuses to disrespect your space. Whoever really cares about you respects your rules and your limits. The others, unfortunately, only take advantage of his generosity. Jung said that the true sense of freedom is born when we recognize our borders and defend them. Yes, many times these people don't even know that they are crossing the limits. They act this way because they were raised in environments that normalized this type of invasion. But the fact that they don't realize it doesn't mean you have to accept it. After all, if someone broke into their home and started dictating the rules, they would surely revolt. But curiously, this logic seems to disappear when they are in other people's homes. A good exercise: the next time someone gets their hands on your food or opens your cupboards without permission, imagine yourself doing the same in that person's home. I bet the reaction would be immediate. Therefore, establish rules. Define your barriers. Your home is not a community center or an amusement park. It is a reflection of your energy, your rest, your identity. Another type of person you need to keep out are those who see their home as a free store. They arrive empty-handed, but leave with full bags. They never bring a symbolic gesture of attention. Not a fruit, not a box of chocolates, not a simple wine. But they do not hesitate to borrow something, which will never be returned. Food, objects, clothes, money. And the worst, always with an emotional speech that mixes closeness with blackmail like, "Wow, we're family." I clearly remember an emblematic case. A distant relative showed up unannounced, ate a good part of what was in my fridge, complimented a jacket of mine, which I almost never wore, and left wearing the piece, taking my drill with him, and still asking me to borrow a considerable amount of money. The promise? "Next week I'll give it back to you." It's been more than 2 years, and nothing. This type of behavior is a clear example of disrespect for their borders. They don't mean it badly, they say, but they do. And you, who are there wanting to help, end up being the only one harmed. To avoid this, it is essential to learn to say no. But not just any no. A calm, firm and guilt-free no. No explanations, no beating around the bush. Something like, "Sorry, I'm using this right now," or "I can't help right now," or "This food is reserved, please don't stir it." Your house is not a bazaar, and you are not responsible for making up for what others lack. Generosity should not be confused with the absence of limits. As Jung said, the more you try to please others, the more you distance yourself from yourself. With each concession made for fear of displeasing, a part of you fades away. And in the end, there is only a shadow of what you could have been. Learning to say no, even to those closest to you, is a way to stay whole. This is not selfishness. It's self-care. And his no needs no justification. It is a legitimate shield, a sign of self-love. Who really respects you will understand. And then we come to the subtlest kind, perhaps the most dangerous, the silent suckers. They don't criticize, they don't complain, they don't borrow anything. But they are there, standing still, exhausting their energy. You recognize them by their absence, for the lack of involvement. When they are present, you need to maintain the dialogue alone. When they share something, they react with blank stares. They are like walls, cold, inert, absent. I had an acquaintance who used to visit my house just to stay a while. He didn't demand anything, but he didn't offer anything either. The conversations died in monosyllabic answers. I needed to fill every silence. And when she left, the house seemed heavier, the air thicker, the heart more tired. And the worst, this was repeated for months. And in the end, I realized that she never asked me how I was. He never showed real interest. Jung called this phenomenon passive vampirism. They are people who, even in silence, drain everything around them. They do not return energy. They do not connect. They just consume. How to identify this pattern? Simple. If, after a date with someone, you feel drained instead of nourished, there's something wrong. True relationships generate exchange, growth, lightness. If there is only wear and tear, it is time to review the space you are giving. It's not about cutting all ties. It's about wisely selecting who deserves to be within your energy field. Your time is precious. His peace is non-negotiable. Your home is sacred. A person's home is more than walls and objects. It is a mirror of their emotional state, of their inner balance. When you allow anyone to enter without criteria, you are allowing energies, intentions, and patterns that do not belong to you to invade your sacred space. The home should be a refuge, a sanctuary where you can be whole, without masks, without the obligation to please. Carl Jung said that by denying yourself for the sake of pleasing others, you distance yourself further and further away from your true self. It is as if, little by little, each concession made for fear of displeasing is erasing the lines of its own identity. You stop being who you are to become what is expected of you. And then, when you realize, you no longer know where the other ends and you begin. Therefore, setting limits is not about rejecting people. It's about protecting yourself, about consciously choosing who has the privilege of accessing your intimate world. Even if that person is your family, even if the usual voice whispers, but he's your brother, but she's your aunt, but you grew up together. No one, absolutely no one, has the right to cross its boundaries just because they share the same blood. And if you feel guilty for putting up barriers, for saying no, for avoiding people who hurt you even though they are close, I want you to know one thing. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone conscious, someone who chooses himself. For a long time, I carried this guilt myself. He felt that he was a bad son, a bad nephew, a bad friend. Until I realized that I was sacrificing my peace to maintain relationships that actually destroyed me. If someone doesn't respect your time, your space, your choices, or your energy, no matter how related you are, they're not acting with love. True love respects. True love welcomes without suffocating, listens without judging, walks together without trampling. When we open the door of our house to someone, we are opening an energetic portal. We're saying, this is my space of rest, of healing, of connection to what is truest in me. Enter with respect. But if those who enter come with judgment, selfishness, heaviness, pressure, or emotional manipulation, then this door needs to close. And not in anger. With wisdom. There are simple but powerful ways to protect this space. First, observe your body. He knows before the mind. If you feel a tightness in your chest when someone arrives, if your stomach turns, if your breath shortens, take it seriously. The body is wise. He feels the energy that words disguise. Second, pay attention to what remains after the visit. Is there lightness or exhaustion? Joy or discouragement? Peace or chaos? The energy that remains says a lot about the vibration that has arrived. Sometimes, the biggest sign that someone shouldn't have entered your home is the heavy silence that remains when she leaves. Third, do not fall into the trap of justification. Your no doesn't need long explanations. Today I can't have visitors. I prefer to keep this moment just for me. This piece is not available for loan. These are complete sentences. You don't owe satisfaction for choosing to protect your emotional health. Fourth, normalize the act of refusal. The culture of accept everything has created a generation of exhausted people, with their energies diluted, living according to what others expect. Saying no is revolutionary. It is a sign of maturity. It is a yes to himself. And finally, remember a simple but transformative truth. You have the right to choose who you want to share your time, space, energy, and intimacy with. Blood can bind biologically, but it doesn't force you to accept behaviors that hurt your integrity. Your home is an extension of your soul. If criticism, demands, emotional blackmail, or indifferent presences enter it, his soul gets sick. But if understanding, genuine affection, true listening, and mutual respect enter into it, your soul flourishes. Every time you say no to someone who hurts you, even if that person is your family, you're saying yes to your peace. Every time you move away from someone who exhausts you, you are getting closer to your own truth. Each time you choose silence over useless confrontation, you are preserving your energy for what really matters. Jung teaches us that self-knowledge goes through these small, big gestures. Saying no may sound harsh, but it is liberating, because those who respect themselves are healed. Those who respect themselves are strengthened. Those who respect each other find themselves again. So if you ever found yourself feeling guilty about closing the door, know that you were just taking care of your soul. You have the right and the duty to turn your home into a temple. And temples are not open to just anyone. They are sacred spaces where only those who understand the value of silence, presence, and respect can enter. Don't be afraid to push away people who weigh you. Fear getting lost trying to please them. You are the guardian of your inner world. And the key to your emotional home is in your hands. Use it wisely.